I just.
You're setting expectations too high.
We'll get that coffee eventually.
We now like.
Thank you everybody for attending tonight's meeting. Election of chairs, first item. Councillor Marley.
I propose Councillor Donahue.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Those in, oh, is there any other other nominations? Okay, those in favour of me, please shout.
Unanimous.
Thank you very much, everybody. My second is election of vice chair.
I'd like to propose Councillor Howard
Despite the town clerk's best efforts, it never got to the top of the pile of members to agree. It never came as a request to the Buckinghamshire councillors to agree. I never had a request to, and I wrote back to them and said, well, I've got all these requests, where's the town council's request? So it missed the funding stream, and I kept pressing for it to come forward. Then there was a review of the works for transport for Buckinghamshire works to do with whatever, and then there was the motion at Buckinghamshire Council to only fund 50% of it. So I think we rightly feel that we missed out on an opportunity, and the figures in here are something we need to consider in conjunction with the precept at the end of the year, and not say no or yes to it at this stage. The figure was around about £10,000, and we'd go back for something else. But it is an aspiration that we would do this, and it goes from 2019 when we put it in and asked for it, to get all the way through to 2021's budget, which was agreed in 2022 at Buckinghamshire Council. Find that the September of that meeting, they put a change to the theories on that they wouldn't support 20-mile-an-hour schemes unless they were funded. I think that we need some explanation around why we didn't get it agreed before, because I think that's basically stole the opportunity of us trying to have a feasibility study, which would have been funded under the original rules, which would have supported us knowing whether we could actually do anything to improve traffic management.
What's your thoughts though on this?
Well, I think the report is accurate. It's disappointing but accurate, but I do think we need to go back to them and make a plea to the cabinet member on the basis that an explanation why this wasn't agreed and other things were agreed, which was at the same period of time as we didn't agree this. We agreed a grant for £25,000 to do a village hall floor. For a village of 100 people. So I think there is reason to be upset. And
but what's your thoughts on?
Well, we go back to them and ask them to fully explain why the original grant was not processed, because I think it was in time. The officer, town clerk, went and got the details from Transport for Buckinghamshire. They had all the information. It never was presented to the Buckinghamshire councillors to agree, and other things were. And I think that we're not going to change their decision, but if they don't learn by what they've done, because I think we were done out of it personally.
Sure. But what are your thoughts on this?
I just said I think we go back to them and ask them to go back and look at why our grant did not get agreed before the change in the way the council deal with it when other grants did, and because all the information was in this report, so it could have been agreed, and why it was never put to be agreed. I don't think that's an unreasonable request, because
any other thoughts on it, Martin and Margaret and Martin?
M&M's don't help. It's in your hand doing.
Thank you. Just a couple of thoughts. I mean, I think reductions in speed limits are a good thing per se. I know there are issues as to how enforceable they are, but it hopefully would encourage certain percentage of drivers to slow down. But I also note that on Lace Hill, they put up unofficial 20-mile-per-hour notices. I know it's a discrete area, so probably it lends itself to that kind of action. But I just wonder, even if we get formal 20-mile-per-hour limit, eventually after this, if we have the feasibility study and it says yes, and eventually we get it, would there be some way of doing this, the kind of thing that they're doing with Lace alternative, which could be done much more speedily? I'm sorry, that's not a good term to use.
but quickly.
Right, what are your thoughts on what Lace Hill doing? Can we do that elsewhere?
The short answer is I'm not technically sure, but it's certainly something we could encourage others to do. Members might want to look at all the other options. In terms of speeding, there are lots of things you can do about speeding across the town. So we've got an MBAS that we operate, we've got a speed watch, which a member of the community is taking away to try and set up. We're going to talk to Thames Valley about. I'm not sure where that's got to. There are campaigns that schools have been running sometimes to do, and the town council can encourage them to do. There are food stick campaigns. There are a whole set of things which could be done and are sometimes done across the town. So it might be, I think, actually the thing to talk about the next meeting would be let's have a look at all the other options to encourage people to slow down and like this speed in the town, because there are things we've done in the past, there are things we can do. But I'm just slightly nervous about encouraging people to put up 20 mile an hour stickers where the speed limit isn't 20 miles an hour. But that might be the is okay, and I don't know. I'd have to go and check.
Yes, it's not going to be enforceable. Yeah. Okay, Martin.
Yeah, I don't think we ought to spend this money out of our own pocket. I endorse what Councillor Such's been saying. You know, if we can go back and argue our case a bit more, then that's fine. But as for whatever options and speed it gives us around the town, I don't think we ought to spend our own money on a speeding survey review.
And that could also feed into these other organisation groups and schools doing campaigns anyway to reduce speed.
Yeah, we could coordinate that, of course, to try and improve. At the moment, there's a couple of racing boys around town with loud exhausts, which seem to be rearing around at the same sort of time at night. And a motorbike as well, it seems to be happy.
There's a motorbike as well.
But we can coordinate all those pressures. But as for this review, I don't think it's what we're set up for.
Okay, thank you for your thoughts on that. Okay.
I don't think we can at this meeting change the policy of the council, which was through a motion to 20 mile an hour. I think what we need to, because that means you have to propose something and undo a policy which is 29, which was agreed unanimously. We can make a proposal not to do it, but we can't just say in this meeting we wouldn't do it. But on the Nay-Seal question, I've been in constant correspondence with that on that. But one of the things that you may not be aware of is that Nay-Seal still is waiting for full adoption of the highway under the Section 38 agreement. Now, in December, when I spoke to them about traffic regulations of the 20 mile an hour at Nay-Seal, I was advised that they need a traffic order to do that. So they may be putting stickers up presently, which we can commend, because I'm sure it's made a difference and it's probably helped. But once that road becomes adopted, I expect it will be the same as everywhere else at 30 mile an hour. We may find that they receive some challenge about the signage. Now that's not we didn't put the signage up. We may support it, but we need to be mindful of that. But simple areas on that estate, like the Briarway, is still waiting to be adopted. And although on the positive side, I did inform the town clerk that the disability access that we facilitate as a council will be included in the adoptions. So that means that the slope of Cotton End will be in the adoptions. So I think I'm happy for anyone to propose anything, but I'm not just on the note that I don't think we should do something. I think if you're going to change it, you need to make a vote and then go to council and change it. Because I think that my proposal would be that we do nothing till we hear back from them. And then we review this against all the other expenses we've got at the end of the year. And it could be that what Martin says becomes a reality, because we may not have the wherewithal to actually go out and find the £10,000, even though we may want to. So I don't think we should start cutting it off at this time of year. We should wait until all the discussions are complete. And then if it comes that the Resources Committee decides that against all the other expenditure we've got, we can't afford to do that, then there's a proper reason for doing it. because I remember the vote was a recorded vote, and I know who voted which way. So in the recorded vote, and we can bring that up. But so I think we should just tickle along with this for now and take on board what the Mayor said about this 29-hour thing, to take on board what the reality is. I have made all correspondence to do with the adoptions available to the
That's
office.
fine, we don't need, that's fine. Okay, so yeah, put on
Sorry,
to
Chair.
ask if you,
Just to remind members that when this was discussed by interim council in March, interim council seemed to say what we just looked at and agreed to refer it to the resources committee. So council effectively delegated this decision to the committee, so it's fine to make that decision you want to make. Process.
Okay.
But very happy for this proposal to be voted on. We write to Buckinghamshire Council, delay decision, write to Buckinghamshire Council, complaining, see if that there's any fruit. Because actually, any decision that we make is going to affect the preset for next year. So that we don't have to make that decision.
I'm proposing that then we bring that back, pending that information.
Second that. Right, so the members happy that we are going to write back to the Shire Council and do a bit more investigation. If we don't need to make a decision tonight, then there's no harm in waiting. Do we have a vote on that?
So you said it again.
So, did you write down the proposal from Robin?
Oh, yes, yeah, to go to Buckingham Council and see if we can get funding, and then we can discuss it again. Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so those in favour of doing that, shall I again? Yes.
Unanimous.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Could be what you say, Martin, but the absolute truth.
Yeah. Next is compliments and complaints log. Appendix D. Very want to compliment that. Any comments? Okay, so
And you just give me a minute to.
that's fine. We'll start at page 25 and 40. And then it goes to 26 to 40. Any comments on 26 to 40? Sorry, Margaret, yeah.
Yeah, I just want, with that complaint on 26 and 40, is there further action that we need to take on that issue?
Good, Paul's already done it. He's done an acknowledgement.
I've done an acknowledgement. It might be something we can discuss a further response to, Margaret, between us two.
Robin.
Suppose that exactly what the town clerk says. I think that doesn't need a committee decision to do it. It's an internal staffing type thing, and I think it's much appropriate that maybe yourself and Margaret and the town clerk discuss how we formulate a response to that, rather than make some decision here, which
I'm happy with Margaret and town clerk to do
yeah,
that.
yeah,
It's fine. Yeah, it doesn't need too many people.
no, don't.
Page 27, 40. Yeah. Okay, so we're now on banking arrangements topic. So we have the report for it that you've all read. I know you have. And do we have any comments on this? Robin?
Can we write to the appropriate television channels, see if they can filter out the Lloyds Bank advert? Because the idea that the Lloyds Bank advert says we're with you seems a bit galling, really, because they're not with us.
Really think we can.
I know, I'm saying that in jest. I watch it on the telly and it irritates me, period. I think what,
Channels.
well, you do, but it's then on the other channel as well, isn't it? They all seem to be on at the same time, don't
Right,
they?
on this report though,
Well, I think,
Should have thoughts on that?
no, just that what you said is correct, and we just have to go with it. And if the hub does come to fruition, that we would use it for what we do. And that was, so we just, but on the hub for you, Chairman, I was mightily surprised that the press release went out so quickly. It went to the community board, and as it was a town centre thing, I never ever got to see it. But it was, though I support it wholeheartedly, I was surprised that we weren't involved. And the night of the meeting was on a meeting on Monday, which meant that it was difficult for town council to attend. Period. I do think that it's good that the town council has worked on that project and working on that project, and thank officers for their time attending that meeting. But the people who organised that meeting knew jolly well that we've got a town council meeting on every Monday, and to organise it on a Monday we could have asked our mayor to represent us at that, or if it was under town centres, one could have asked deputy or myself. So I think we need to carry on discussions and whatever, but partnership is about inclusion, and the least I believe, to correct it for the town clerk, that our deputy town clerk was present at the meeting. Is that correct?
No, communications part.
Communication clerk present. Okay. But I do think that going forward we need to at least let them. We respect other people's calendars of events, and it would be nice if they respected ours. But I think we do need to get in like the report suggests, finding the magic room to put it in is going to be the
I've sent a suggestion of the places that I know of, and that's gone to what's the lady's name, the one dealing with the community board, lovely girl.
yeah,
Alice.
Alice, that's it.
Alice.
Yeah, so she's got that. But it's only other Martin.
So, with all of this, is that on a procedural and practical side, do we need to consider changing any of our processes written down for holding petty cash and the amount we hold? Would it be practical to up that level a bit? Do we need to buy a safe, or maybe we have one, but you don't need to tell me that?
I mean, we've got debit
because
cards, haven't we?
there will be always money flowing. We may not want to do it right now, depending on how long the hub takes, because that may override it. But if it doesn't happen, then we may have to think about our cash flow from some of our places, and then, if we could, give it out to the other places that need the cash. We've become our own little cash flow hub.
Yeah, I mean, that's a conversation that town clerk can have with Jodie and the other staff, and whether we need to up the petty cash. We've got 2 debit cards, haven't we?
Well, we have got 2 debit cards. So at the moment, it says a petty cash flow of £300. We discussed that quite recently, actually, decided that £300 is a sensible amount for the office.
Yeah, but now you're talking Lace Hill plus the market.
That's not the float's not the same as the amount that we might take and keep in the office, or have to. So we haven't got a number. The financial regulations of that amount.
Understood.
So in terms of money from the market, for example, there's not a limit on that.
Okay.
So there's technically nothing in the financial regulations. I do think it's something that either for the next meeting or the meeting after should come back on the agenda to actually see how it's once the bank's closed. It'll be helpful to reflect on the reality and how it's actually working.
Yeah. So maybe we could put that on, maybe on a confidential, so we can discuss where it all goes and where it all comes.
That's a good idea, because I don't really want to say too much.
No.
And
Have we opened a post office account? I think it'd be wisest to open a post office account so you can put the money in if you need to take cash out. But that's basically what we're talking about. Want we to deposit cash and take for floats and things.
But we can deposit money and take money out of our bank account through the post office.
So we have got a post office account.
No, but you don't need a post office account, so the post office can take transactions.
Yeah, okay.
We keep
So
bank
that's all
account.
fine,
But can you take cash out?
yes.
The website or link to the back bottom of the thing about using the hub, is it working now, the link? Because there was some discussion around the fact that the link wasn't actually working.
I don't know, it wasn't working on Friday, I haven't.
I saw emails today when one of the Buckinghamshire councils was asking whether it was working. Because clearly, we asked that we look into that as a matter of urgency, because we have got it on our motions, and we'll get a portion of the criticism for the link not working, although it isn't our
We're
link.
working on it, aren't we?
Yeah, I'll chase it again.
Okay, so we are just noting the report. Yeah, thank you.
And we're adding it to
Next,
future
yeah.
consideration.
Right, next is our lost property policy, item 10, and that's another report. Yes.
I should say, we haven't got a lost property policy, so we should do with one. We're absolutely not advertising us as somewhere that can accept lost property. We'd rather people didn't give it to us, we're not seeking it, but we do sometimes end up with it nonetheless, so we need a policy for how we use it when we do it.
Music in the market in Banjam.
And also the park, somebody said that there's like things get left behind in the park.
Yeah, it's usually stuff they should have put in the bin.
Not always.
Margaret,
Yeah, I propose that we adopt this policy.
Agreed.
yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
agreed.
Can we have a vote on those?
Yeah, agreed.
This policy. Margaret, yeah, Martin's on.
Yeah, unanimous.
Thank you. Right, new website, item 11, update on you form.
Yeah, just, you may remember, those of you who were on the committee last year, that we have agreed to create a new website. Louise has said various things around consulting on the content and framework for it. We've commissioned it, that there is a design of the new website up and running in a secret web location, which we will share with councillors at the appropriate point when we're actually ready to receive comments, but it's currently being built as we talk. So hopefully by the next committee, it will be live and good to go.
Just ask that we don't, that it would be much better to delay using that website till we've made sure we've got under, because it's one of the things that does attract people's attitude criticism, and I think the town clerk wise to make sure that it's working, because we'll spend 13 and it'll be a great Facebook discussion on why when you press E doesn't it go to B, and can't they organise a website because Amazon's okay and such and such is okay, and
I think we can leave that to
I think
the
that cautious and make it work is the right thing.
But I think the point is that releasing that to us, that's where we pick up links that aren't working and spelling errors or grammar or whatever.
Well,
That's our
I'll
chance to.
I'll declare the fifth on spelling errors.
Okay. It's simply fine.
So we also command the staff on the website.
And we've seen
I
some.
haven't seen it yet.
Well, no, but I mean, just the fact that they put all this effort, I mean, it's not easy.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, I could never get my.
Yes. So can you say thank you to Louise and everybody else that's working on it for the work so far?
Agreed.
Item 12, the economic regeneration project. We've got a report for that one. You've all read, Robin?
Yeah, I read it twice now. When you recall that the first scheme was a strange scheme of going out to spend £50,000 on something which we didn't know what it was. I think this proposal is a positive partnership scheme, and that the town council is going to be heavily involved in it, and that it's funding to us to do something. I don't think it will produce more than what asking somebody to come to Buckingham who would have produced a report for some other similar looking town, what looks like Buckingham, and then they'll just make it fit Buckingham. And that's what happens with those reports. So I think this is a good way to go. I thank the town clerk for the report, thank the office working on it. I think also it saves thousands and thousands of pounds from the community board for other things, which if their budget was cut, it will appreciate it, I'm sure. So I'm happy to recommend that we read the report.
Anybody else got any comments on this? No, so can we have those in favour of accepting the funding and do the project? Lewis, thank you very much, Anthony. Martin, we have just voted though, but
Yeah. No, the report and what we're doing is fine. It was just the figures that 7 plus 3 is 10, but it said 22 allocated and remaining 12. Well, that, oh yeah, that's 22 then, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Well done, Martin. Good old boy. Good old boy, Martin. We got there, didn't we?
You have me worried.
I'll get the figures wrong, you get the words wrong.
We'll make a hell of a team, Martin. We'll make a hell of a team. We could apply for cabinet then, because we're in government if we go together with that sort of team.
it's not to be laughing with you, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, I mean,
We could make a whole cabinet member for government.
He told me to say that.
Right, so that's based on item 13, climate emergency action plan, appendix E. So these are updates.
Just make 2 comments.
Of course you can.
Okay. One is that this report does commit us to the 18th of July for that part of the new website. So just to reflect the point you just made, that might be slightly delayed getting it around. And also the Tetra Pak water. So we did buy a few of them, kind of cardboard bits of water that we had out to celebrate Buckingham, which were much, much cheaper than all the other options we investigated and seemed to work really well. We're still working with set left for the doctor. Well, actually next weekend.
State park again.
Yeah.
Get some, yeah, there's 20% free quantity to those two, they give out free water, so they don't get dehydrated, yeah. Okay, right, so we can start just in case who's got anything on it. So page 33 and 40, any comments? Like page 35 and 40, any comments? Page 36 and 40.
Just cover that and the water.
Page 37 and 40. 38 and 40. Thank you.
Just a comment, there's nothing to do with all this. You know, we're building, it's not in the agenda, we're building this cemetery bit. Can we not put a wind turbine there? Considering it's right on top of the hill. Just a comment. Maybe you have to think,
Happy for environment.
yeah, think about it later.
Yeah. Robin.
If I could just say that I sat for a planning meeting the other day to put solar panels in, and that was difficult enough. And if anyone recalls the long discussion about the wind turbine on the entrance,
I don't think we're going to discuss that here. It's not.
but I think Andy's right that we need to look at it. But
That's for environment.
I think we could ask environment to look at it.
We can, Andy can raise it environment, we can have a chat about it there, that's right. Basically, to be discussed. Ryan.
On this point, I was just going to say, if anyone wants to email me on Vice Chair.
You are indeed. Indeed.
It's here, eh?
I just had to, cream in
We have a wind turbine named after you.
Okay, so we are on updates from reps on outside bodies. So who is on what? Would you like to give updates on?
To committee really, but it will affect us. Tomorrow I'm going to ask questions around the when they're going to properly consult with the Buckingham Town Council about the feasibility study for the A421, because up to yet we haven't had a proper consultation on it, and that will affect us in resources if we have to put resources to it. So we want what's happening tomorrow to it, because I think we all know that a road works on the A41 will either Frederick, Buckingham or Dorset, and that's they haven't defined the route. So we'll see what comes out tomorrow, but we do need to do that, and I think no, I'm going to leave the rest because I can go to another meeting.
Anybody else on the name that you want to update on? No. Okay. Action report to discuss. So we'll go page 39 and 40.
Yes, please.
Yes, Martin.
Code of conduct training. Yes. The one we had the other day was that part of code of conduct.
So the one you went to the other day.
Well, we had it.
No, that wasn't. Sorry, that wasn't code of conduct.
Okay, that was just
Policy
specific.
Leicester training.
Okay. I thought it may have come under the umbrella.
No, code of conduct is quite different.
Oh, is it? Well, I should know that. Of course, I went to the meeting.
I think it's something we do need to do, because I do code of conduct training. I usually score quite good on it, actually, surprisingly, for all sorts of reasons. But
We are going to do it.
but I think
Occasionally we
that
arrange.
there are options out there that were done online, and where you can you watch a short video about something, and then you then score, and then it goes in and it comes out with what you actually done, because it might be able, then people can do it in their own time rather than all come together and then whatever. But there was a package which was used. We used it because we had to do it by law on Buckinghamshire Council. We did it online when COVID was on, and it was legal to do it like that. People have to do code of conduct training, and we've done it other ways since. But I think that might be something that we could investigate.
So the idea of the training we're arranging is that it's actually run by the monitoring officer in person.
Yeah.
Or possibly on a video screen for us in person.
Yeah.
And obviously, the big benefit to that is that you can then question and engage with the monitoring officer directly, which is a really rare opportunity given the whole county. So I think if we can do an in-person session when you do get face-to-face time with them, I think that would be the idea. That would be a kind of second best.
Yeah. Can I ask for a gag for that meeting then?
You ask.
Ask for a gag for that meeting then if it's the monitoring officer.
Okay, so page 40 of 40. So that is that part of the agenda done. Okay, so I don't have any announcements. Do I? Other than this is our last meeting together. Please stay.
You won't be saying that in a couple of weeks.
Right, so we're gonna, Robin?
I think we made a good point. Can we, for you, Chair, record our thanks to the town clerks out with this committee and resources for a year. We've had some tremendous discussions, and he's always come up with an answer, hasn't he?
All the time.
Always come up with an answer to the problems that we've thrown at him, and I think that shows a tremendous amount of diligence and whatever. And he's always done it with the best possible humour, which is difficult to do anyway. So I think we should record our thanks to him in a minute and thank him for the game, and also the way that he worked with the staff and the officers, and the way that he's managed to keep a happy team together and build a team which his successor will be inheriting. I think we should put that.
Our team has grown as well,
And it's
over
grown.
the time,
Yeah.
so it is a lot. Definitely.
I think we will miss you. We will miss you.
Massively.
And if I ever come to Dunstable to find you, I'm sure you'll be out.
Can I also say that I'm the only chairman that's got disabilities and illnesses, and I know that this past year that you've learned a different way of communicating with the chair, because previously they were all able-bodied, experienced councillors. So whereas a councillor might have popped into the office a couple of times a week and they might used to, we do it over Zoom or on WhatsApp. And it works really well. And I think it's nice that you've adapted to help me through that. And in turn, we found ways of communicating and it's worked brilliantly. So thank you very, very, very much.
It's been fun.
Thank you.
Can I just say that if I'd known you were leaving so soon, I'd give you a harder time.
Too late now.
Well, it did give a notice, so you had time. Okay, right. So date next meeting is 26th of September.